Welcome back everyone to another day working on the truck. Today's the day we finally get the Kinetic spring mounts mounted on the truck and get the tray finally mounted. Okay, for those that don't actually know what a Kinetic spring mount is, I'll give you a quick run through. You can think of the spring mount as basically a hold down. Most people have the complete wrong assumption of what a spring mount actually does. So the spring doesn't take any weight of the camper or of the tray. The tray itself is actually supported on the chassis rail via the wear strips and then also taking some weight on this mount up the front. The springs themselves don't take any weight. They're actually there just holding tension on that bolt and allow the tray and the chassis rail to separate if they need to when the chassis starts to twist. It's a bit of a backwards thing and takes you a little while to wrap your brain around how these actually work. When you drive the truck in situations where it's twisting and flexing through holes as you're driving along, especially once your suspension runs out of travel, that's where your chassis will start to twist and start to flex. As the chassis twists and flexes, the chassis can actually pull away from the tray. As it pulls away from the tray, it will compress the spring, and then as it comes back down, it'll land back on here. Once you add a camper or a big box onto the tray, you're adding a heaps of rigidity to the tray. Therefore, the tray ends up rigid and the chassis still wants to flex, and that pressure's got to go somewhere. Usually that pressure causes one of the tray mounts to crack or potentially even put a crack in the chassis. That's why you see most truck builds and expedition builds, they always use some sort of kinetic mounts, whether it be a spring mount or on some of the bigger trucks like the Unimogs, they use a 3-point anti-torsion system. That's completely different to this setup. Alright, let's go back in time and I'll show you how I made these spring mounts. I've picked up some parts from the laser cutter for my spring mounts. So I've got this whole stack of parts here. Okay, so this is the lower section that bolts to the chassis. So I'm going to weld all this together. Then I'll have to drill 4 holes in it. I didn't get the holes laser cut because all the holes in the chassis are different. So I'll get these sitting in position, mark them, then drill them. Then this is the upper part, which will then weld to the tray. So these holes, they're not actually bolt holes. I just got to put these holes in just so I can plug weld. And then I can weld as much as I want around the perimeter to the tray. Mostly made out of 6mm steel, except for this plate and this plate I made out of 8mm steel. These are the bolts I'm using. So these are a high tensile bolt, 3/4 inch, which is about 19mm. These will sit together sort of like that. They'll sit with a 10mm gap between them. I'll either just leave a gap or I might get some more of this HDPE plastic and put in some spaces in there, drill a hole through them. Maybe, not sure yet. We have this big bolt which runs through with this heavy duty truck body spring, which gives us about 50mm of travel. That's the plan. I've got to start prepping them all and getting them ready to weld. So there's a fair bit of work in it. Not only do I want to weld the inside perimeter, which that's relatively simple, I want to weld the back sides as well. So I need to chamfer everything so there's somewhere for the welds to go. I've marked on the sides what I think I'm going to do. Basically put a 3mm chamfer on one edge and then the corresponding edge which butts in, which will give me a nice 6mm V, so I can get weld in here without it protruding at the back. Otherwise you'd just be grinding off all the weld you put on. So I've got a chamfer that, and then the same on the sides so that I can weld up all the seams. Alright, let's get started. I've chamfered both sides there, so I can get weld in there. And I've chamfered both sides of that. I haven't bothered with this center bit here because I don't think it really needs it, because I'm going to weld all the inside as well. But like chamfering the side plate's easy, but chamfering inside this little checkout, so chamfering inside there is a little bit difficult. I've got quite a few of them to do. I just think it's probably unnecessary. It's a lot of welding. And then I've chamfered the top plate, both sides. I can get weld in there, weld in there, weld in there. And then I'll flip it over and weld all the inside, so it's going to be plenty strong. As you can see, I'm not in my usual garage. We moved house the other day, so I've just spent a couple of hours on the old welder and grinder. Look at all the freaking metal filings everywhere. And I'm assembling the tray mounts. A few hours of welding, and I've got these are all the lower mounts for the spring mounts, all welded up. Now I've just got to go over and with a wire wheel and fibre disc, clean them all up. And then I've still got all these pieces over here, which these pieces will make all the upper mounts for the spring mounts. And you can see my truck sitting out there. That's its new home for the time being. We're just staying at the in-laws' house for a few months while we finish the truck and work out what we're doing next. I got a little bit more space to work in this shed compared to the garage I was working in. And then I brought my gantry. I can back the truck in here and I'll actually be able to lift the tray on and off while I'm working on it. As soon as I got all the tray mounts sorted, I'll get the tray mounted, then I'll bring the truck in, I'll lift the tray off and then set it up level, and then I'm going to build the whole camper in the shed here. And then once it's built, I'll roll it out into the driveway, I'll bring the gantry out, and then we'll lift it up and put it on the truck. I got all my tray mounts welded up. A couple of them I think I'm going to have to modify. So I'm going to go through now and try and clamp them all in position where they go. Then I've got to mark them, drill the holes through the back, and then the lower halves get painted. The upper halves will go something like that. They'll get plug welded in those two holes and then welded around the perimeter. A couple of them might need a little bit of modification because I didn't allow for the straps where I've mounted the plastic wear strips to the tray. I'll just trim that side down a little bit so it clears that strap, and then I can weld it to the tray. At the moment you can see the tray's just strapped on and a few blocks to locate it. So I'll go through now and I'll measure everything, make sure that the tray's sitting square, sitting in the right position, forward, back, left, right, all that. Then I'll try and clamp all the tray mounts in position, mark them all, drill them all, and then the top halves I can then just tack them in position. Then once they're tacked, I'll rotate the tray up on its edge, and then I can weld those mounts fully off on the tray, and then we get to bolt it on. It's the factory battery cradle, which that's going to all get changed, but unfortunately that's in the way of the front mount. The front mount's actually a little bit different to the rest. The front mounts, they are actually load bearing. Essentially all the rest of the mounts are really sort of hold downs as the tray itself sits along that full wear strip there. So it's got about 2.4 meters of load bearing along that chassis rail. But then because of this S-bend in the chassis, I couldn't continue that same theory, so these front tray mounts will actually be load bearing. And this one gets bolted right where that mount is for the battery tray. I'll go ahead now, I'll take off this battery tray, that's going to all get changed anyway. I'm going to have a big under tray toolbox which goes here, which will hold the batteries for the truck and the batteries for the camper. These are heavy. I can probably get some better, lighter batteries than those. Battery tray is out. We've got a very impatient little doggo over here trying to work on the truck, but somebody wants to go for a walk. I might have to take intermission and go for a walk, I think. Someone's being a bit impatient. Is it walk time? Yeah? Alright.
One day later.
It's the following day and I'm back on the build again. I've just mocked up one of these front mounts. I've got the battery box off now. It'll mount roughly like that. I've got one of these factory rivets in the chassis here. So I'm just going to drill a clearance hole in the bottom of that so it clears that rivet. That made light work of that. Man, I love the mag drill. So good. I think that's how it's going to sit, and then I can mark it from the back side, then drill the 4 mounting holes. I'll get all 8 mounts all bolted on, ready to go, then I will tack them in position on the tray. I'm really struggling to mark these holes because there's too much stuff in the way. I've got another idea. I'll show you a little trick. So I've got a sheet of paper. I'll just cut a little hole out of it where that rivet is. So I'm going to hold this and line this up where it goes, shade it with a pencil, and then I'll be able to transfer the marks across to my steel. So now it's got to transfer these marks across onto the steel. I'll mark the center of each just by eye. That's the way it was on the truck. So I need to flip that over like that.
One eternity later.
This is very slow going. Been going at it pretty much all day. I've got the front mounts bolted up, ready to be tacked on. They're bolted on. I've just discovered a bit of a problem with these middle ones. As the leaf spring comes up, it's going to hit the bottom of it. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I've flipped the spring around, and then I'm going to basically cut that lower bracket in half. It should give me some clearance here, so when this spring comes up, it doesn't hit into the bottom of it. What a waste. Well, now I just got to curve these corners and give it a clean up. No one would even know. I designed it like that. That's what I'll tell everyone.
Hi. Can we please get donuts?
Apparently it's not truck time anymore, it's donut time.
It's donut time.
They do look good. There's a little local food truck that parks down the road. Might have to call it for tonight and go get some donuts. Alright, that's it for tonight. I'll be back out here again tomorrow. It's the next day, I'm back in the shed again, making some more progress. Marking where they go on the chassis, then I'll take the brackets off and then run a grinder with a flat wheel or something and then take the paint off. Now we need to pull the tray off. Call for reinforcements. You're just going to pick it up, aren't you?
Yep. All my strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to use this gantry, slide it forward, lift the tray up, and then probably tow the truck forward with the ute because I've got no batteries hooked up to the truck.
Forgot about that.
Then I can lay it back down and weld it without getting spatter all over the truck, and it allows me to then flip the tray up on its edge to better get the welds because there's a few underneath welds I can't get to there. Got your muscles out?
No.
Okay, we've got it to this point. We've got the step ladder under the back. It's not really taking much weight. It's just because my straps are slightly off-centered, so it's just taking a little balance. And now we need to get the truck out from underneath it.
Yeah. Not doing this.
Not bloody bad. I've welded all I can with the tray in this orientation, so now we're going to try and stand the tray up on its edge. We've got the tray vertical. Now I can come along and do the rest of the welds on these mounts. Then we've got to flip it 180 and do the same on the other side. Then it's good to then test fit back on the truck. I've finished all the welds on this side. They're looking pretty good. They'll definitely be strong enough. Lots of heat into them. Whew. There's a lot of welding. All the brackets welded. Some look better than others, but there's plenty of heat in them. So they'll be strong, that's the main thing. MIG'd most of it, but then just in this gap here, I couldn't get the MIG torch in there, so I've just arc welded that one in there. That actually came up pretty good. don't know if you can see it, there's a little bit of slag in there I've got to chip off. It got the better of me, so I pulled all the wear strips off, and I've now welded along the bottom side of all these mounts as well. Didn't need it for strength, it's more so just to seal it up so no water can get in between the bracket and the steel. Now it's time just to clean up everything, get rid of all any tags and spatter, give it all a wire brush, clean it all up, and then give it all the brackets of paint. Then I can reinstall the wear strips. I just had a delivery today, rather heavy parts. This will be, I've got the drawer slides for the under tray deck, and in the big square box will be the front diff lock. Although technically it's not actually a diff lock, it's actually an LSD. I had two options. I could have got a Eaton e-locker, but I've chose to go with this option instead, which is the auto torque biasing LSD, which I think for my applications will actually be better. That wasn't too bad. Tray is back on. It probably just needs a little bit of a tweak, although it looks pretty good on my brackets at the front. They've lined up nicely. Obviously I've still got to take all these off, give them a clean up and give them a paint, and then they go back on and get bolted properly. Finally time to get these tray mounts installed. Now I just got to bolt them all onto the tray, and then I can install the large bolts and the springs. Let's get them bolted on so this tray is finally mounted. My hand's stuck.
That's entertaining.
Oh, okay. The spanner's got me in. That's actually quite stuck.
I should help, but I'd rather stand here and laugh at you.
I can get it, so we will spanner off. Okay, let's get some bolts on. You want one bolt, two washers, one spring, one nylock nut. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I've just gone minimal pressure on the nut at the moment. I've just gone enough pressure so that there's no rattle. I can always tighten that nut up a little bit more to put a little bit more preload on this spring. I'm not actually going to put a spring on the very back mount. I'm just going to hard mount the back one with just a little rubber bush just to allow for a tiny bit of movement. Solid mounting the back one should give it a bit more stability. The sole purpose of these mounts is just to avoid stress on the chassis and avoid any cracking. So I want it to be as stable and as solid as possible while still allowing enough movement to avoid any stress. I've got 50mm of travel on all of the other ones, so as those ones lift and move, I just want a tiny bit of movement so this one doesn't bind up. And the final spring going on. And there we have it, all 6 springs are on, as well as the solid mounts on the back. There's the very front mount, the next one back, the next one back, and then the very rear mount just with a solid bolt and a little 10mm bush. And there we have it, the tray's finally mounted. It shouldn't have to come off again until I start building the camper, I think. Alright, that's it for this week. Thanks everyone for watching another episode of Matt and Jess Off Grid. Be sure to tune in again next week. I'll give you a quick sneak peek of what's to come. Oh, look at that. Not finished yet.